Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am here with my very good friend from literally high school, Claire Branigan. Welcome, Claire.
Literally high school.
I can't believe, for people listening, Claire has listened to several podcast episodes and has said, like, oh my God, I want to be on the podcast. And here we are. It's fun to see your face in this
begging
window.
to come on the podcast.
Claire has been begging. So we are here to talk about, obviously, we're here like having fun and enjoying being in each other's company,
Yeah.
but we're here obviously to talk about a very serious topic, talking about what's going on in Minneapolis right now and the murder of Renée Good and Alex Pretti. And before we get into that, do you just want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah. So my name is Claire Branigan, Dr. Branigan.
That's right. Claire, I knew her before she was Dr. Branigan because we've known each other since we were like 15 or 16.
I'm an
But go on.
educator. I'm a mom. I'm from Minnesota. Um, My research focuses on gender-based violence and activism against gender-based violence and embodied kind of experiences with that. And I live in Houston, Texas.
That's right. And Claire
Yeah.
is a college professor / department head, correct?
Director of undergraduate studies for Spanish.
There we go.
Right.
There we go.
Mhm.
Wow. At Rice
Yeah,
University. in
definitely
Houston.
not department chair. That's a different position and a different, yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, let me I'm going to just I wrote a couple bullet points to just sort of like frame the conversation in terms of like, what we're talking about, how it relates to chronic pain. So I'll like just read a little bit of this and then let's talk. Cool.
Love it.
Awesome. Okay. So we are framing this conversation today in terms of the conflicting narratives of trauma. And that's how this fits very clearly into the chronic pain world. And in the chronic pain world, they say it's the conflict that kills. So like my childhood, yeah. So like my childhood was good, but my childhood was bad. I've had a good life, but I've been through trauma. That causes one to repress emotions, and repressed emotions are core to the development of chronic pain and a major part of what we talk about on the podcast. So a very common problem in chronic pain patients is believing on a conscious level that your childhood was great or normal, or believing that like your life is great or normal. But then on further examination, you find that there's actually like significant conflict or tension or trauma either in your past or in your present, or often actually both. And the body is feeling the impact of the conflict and the tension and the trauma, but the conscious brain doesn't acknowledge the story as being conflictual or tense or traumatic. And that was definitely me. Audience members who listen to this podcast know Claire and I grew up in St. Paul, Minnesota.
We sure did.
We sure did. In the Catholic Church.
Sure.
We absolutely did. In a very homophobic environment. And it was like a lot of things, many which were positive, many which were negative. We will get into talking about that. But our childhood was pretty homophobic. And I wouldn't have called it that at the time, because in my mind, like it wasn't that bad. And I would have thought like I was the problem. If I was not feeling right, I would have thought like it's me who's the problem, not the environment. So the theme for today is about like knowing and not knowing trauma, the conflicting narratives about trauma and how those narratives exist in the past and shape our present. But today, we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about the theme, and we're taking that theme to the macro level. As people who are listening surely know, if you're following the news at all, Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota right now are basically a civil war zone. Democracy is basically over in the Twin Cities right now, or at least democracy is on pause for right now. And this is like, it's easy to say, like, this is not the city we grew up in, but it's also like, this is exactly the city we grew up in. Like, on one level, it's like, I can't believe this is happening. Like, our cute, quaint hometown. I can't believe this is happening. Um, but the flip side of that coin, it's like, well, of course this is happening because this is the violently white supremacist city we grew up in and the violently white supremacist national and global order that we were socialized into. And this has reached such a fever pitch that now too many immigrants of color are considered an existential threat to America, and they should be detained and deported while the white people who like support their right for immigrants to exist should basically be killed. And suddenly it's really not cute, it's really not quaint, and it's really not good.
Mhm.
So, yeah, in the midst of this horrifying tragedy, let's talk.
Let's get into it.
Let's
Yeah.
get into it, Claire. Well, let's start before we get into like what you're thinking and feeling. Let's just get
Mhm.
into like for just describe for people listening what the Twin Cities are like for someone who's never been there.
So, first of all, I just wanna check in with my body really quick and say that I'm doing a lot of Michael Barbaro "ms." And so I just wanna, like, be transparent about that.
Thank you. Claire and
Yep,
I spend our lives texting about
kind of just,
Michael.
like yeah,
So
really
much side
kind of
I had to give to Michael. It's unreal.
channeling my Barbaro right now, but, so, yeah, growing up in the Twin Cities, specifically in St. Paul so I lived in the Twin Cities both as an adult, and as, like, a child
Yeah.
and a teen, but I moved back to Minneapolis, as did you,
Yeah. We were there together for a while. Yeah.
after, graduating, um, college, and so I had 2 very different experiences of the Twin Cities, I think.
Hmm.
As a child, I knew 0 people of color. None, no friends, just it was literally like you could not find a more like white Caucasian Catholic community.
1000%.
We didn't
Okay.
even live in the suburbs, like, we
I
lived in
know.
the city.
I know. No, it's
Um
fully nuts. And let me say, I just want to piggyback off of that. That's such a good example of like conflicting narratives. Like we
Mhm.
were never we were never told that we were living in racial segregation. In fact,
Right.
we learned in school like,
Mhm.
racial segregation is over, but we grew up in
Yes.
serious racial segregation. I mean, same.
Totally.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Totally, totally, totally. Yeah, so childhood was a very racially segregated, very white community. Racism was a thing of the past. Racism was the South.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was a weird, kind of weird childhood. And everybody, I mean, in our community went to like a little white Catholic school, and then we all
Yeah.
went to the same high school.
Yeah. Claire went to Holy Spirit. I went to
We
St.
went to
Mark's.
Holy Spirit.
It's a couple neighborhoods away from me.
Go Flames. Um, so it was like, I mean, in terms of like, it couldn't be a more just like peaceful, boring community without any
Right,
people of color. Like,
right.
deeply, like the sinister silence, I will say, of the upper Midwest. Now that, I've lived in different parts of the United States, and when I go back north, like, there's a lot of things said about the Southern United States that now that I live here, I don't necessarily agree with, and I think that, we saw a lot of the sort of lie of, like, those things when George Floyd happened, right? So a lot of what we're seeing right now is can't really be understand without first kind of, like, looking at the events of, um, the assassination of George Floyd and also the, like, anti-Black violence that happened prior to George Floyd too.
Yeah.
Um, but Minnesota nice is real. So
Mhm.
it's like the idea that people are very polite. Um, but that what they're never gonna tell you what they really think, right?
Right,
Like,
like
that's the
fake.
big hour.
Yes.
And that's definitely very true, for real. And was a huge part of our, like, childhood and education and culture, I think, growing up.
Agreed.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But then the other thing I wanted to say really quick is that there are parts of the Twin Cities that are actually quite diverse. They're small, and they've become, like, the targets of the Trump administration because I think there are some of the few places, like, in the United States where it's, like, multi-ethnic, it's mixed income, um, and it has a very, like, I don't know, utopian kind of feeling in some parts of, like, South Minneapolis, specifically where, um, Renee Good was killed and where George Floyd was killed. That part of South Minneapolis where I, like, lived and worked after graduating college. I mean, you meet people who are just very committed to building a different kind of city and community, and I think that it's not a coincidence that, like, um, people have come out in such, like, great force because it is there. But it's at the same time, I mean, the state of Minnesota is extremely white and extremely racist and extremely hostile to immigrants and people of color.
Mhm. I think what you're saying is my theory. Like, I think that is why this is happening in Minneapolis. It's because of
Yeah,
that exact tension. Like, there is
totally,
there's so much
totally,
racism, and there is a
totally.
real progressive, uh,
Uh-huh,
movement. So many progressive people of
yeah,
all different racial backgrounds. Like, there's a
mhm,
lot of that. And I just wanna sort of lay the land for people who haven't been. Minneapolis and St. Paul are right next to each other. The Mississippi
mhm,
River cuts through the middle. It's like 2
yep,
cities right next to each other. There's no, um
mhm,
I mean, like, you go over the river, but it's not like, "Oh, you see cow pastures in between the 2." Like,
right.
it's one
I will
seamless.
say, though, people from St. Paul never go to Minneapolis, and people from Minneapolis never go to St. Paul, and it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, you're going to Minneapolis?
right.
Oh, and it's all the way in Minneapolis."
Totally.
Everything takes, like, a total of 10 minutes to get to, like
Right,
but yeah.
right. And people from St. Paul are legit scared of Minneapolis, a lot of people,
For sure,
or
Murderopolis, for sure.
1,000%
Yeah,
Murderopolis, or
that
or they think that, like, white people from St. Paul think they're really special and cultured and cutting edge because they're like, "Oh,
yeah.
we're not afraid to go to Minneapolis in our family."
Right, right. Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you wanna okay, so do you wanna say a little bit about, like, what it was like to, where were you at the time that George Floyd was murdered?
So at that time, I'd recently returned to the US, because my research abroad ended because of the global pandemic.
Right,
International borders in Argentina closed, so I was in Central Illinois when it happened.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
literally the law firm that Claire used to work at when we were in our,
Mm.
like, early 20s was, like, on the front page of, like, global news because it was right in
Yeah.
the background of the just
The
talk about
precinct.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Talk about that
Yeah.
and what that was like for you.
I mean, in 2020, as in now, it is very strange to watch places that, very intimately and that you lived and work in, all of a sudden being, like, presented as if they are war zones, which is it's it's not. I mean, it's an occupation. It's like everybody's a civilian. I keep on reminding myself of this, like, there is no armed resistance. This is just everyday people out in the street literally risking their lives.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's what
Thank
it
you for
is.
you know what? Thank you for saying that. That's such an important clarification. It's not a civil war, it's an occupation, and there
Not.
is no armed resistance.
There's not.
Yeah,
Like, it's just,
period.
like, angry millennials, a lot of, I mean, everyone's out there, like,
Yeah.
everybody is literally putting their life on the line in specific parts of the Twin Cities and Minnesota. I mean, greater Minnesota, like, I remember the experience I've driven through, I've driven through this country, but I have driven from Texas to Minnesota, like, many
Yeah,
times, and,
quite a ride.
where do you see the most Confederate flags? Where do you see the most, like, hate symbols? It's not in the South, it's in the Upper Midwest.
Wow.
It's in Greater Minnesota, it's in Iowa. It's like Minnesota, I think, is, kind of reflects, I guess, the United States in some senses because we have tiny little islands of liberally or leftist, liberally minded people, but once you get out of, like, South Minneapolis or parts of St. Paul, like, people are fully supporting this. Like,
Oh, yeah.
y I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
Yes.
outside of the Twin Cities, so,
Yes.
yeah.
Crazy.
It's not all of Minnesota, it's a very specific part
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
being, like, yeah.
Totally, totally. Well, and it really stands out to me because I totally hear what you're saying about, like, when we grew up, it felt very safe. Like, we were really
Mhm.
like, we were there was a bubble, and we were inside
Yeah.
that fucking bubble, and I, like, looking back on it from, like, an adult perspective, like, I felt so out of place in the bubble as, like, a gay person, but
Mhm.
I wouldn't have been able to, like, name that, but
Yeah.
we grew up in a bubble of privilege,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so many people live in that bubble, and that's their narrative, and, they don't really see beyond that, and I just
Mhm.
wonder, like, do you wanna talk a little bit about, like, what it's like for you to have gone on that journey of growing up in a bubble like that where we grew
Yeah.
up to, like, your consciousness now?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I guess, like, describing our childhood, it was boring. It was
Yeah,
literally boring.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we nothing happened. Like, we
yeah.
just kinda went to school and we did stuff, we played soccer, we were pressured into doing things like that, we did some community theater, and that was kinda like that was it. Like, it
Totally.
was a very, like, sorta I don't know, that's probably why I've pursued a career around, like, seeking out, I don't know, like, bigger questions about the rest of the world precisely because the Twin Cities is just, at least in the 1990s, a very boring place to grow up, which now that I'm a mom, and I live in a city that's much different than the Twin Cities, I'm like, "Whew, it would be nice to be able to, like, raise my kids in that context precisely because it is so boring," but when you're a kid, you're just like, "Nothing happens here." Like
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah,
totally relate to me, it's so funny to, like, living in New York now, people are like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I'm like, "Oh, St. Paul, Minnesota." I can
yeah,
sort of see their mind
yeah.
kind of create, like, this sort of country crossroads in
Mhm.
the middle of all these farms, and
They
they're like
don't know.
yeah, they don't know what it's
They
really like.
they literally don't know. They
Right,
don't
right.
know, but hopefully, if anything comes out of this, hopefully people will not homogenize, like, the Midwest into, like, I don't know, fields and states that start with M. So,
So so true, and square
yeah.
states, so true.
Yeah.
The thing that like, is just, like, so interesting to me is, like, just, like, seeing people's face sort of glaze over, like, "Oh god," like, that's
Mhm.
obviously, like, a total, like, no like, there's nothing going on there, and it did, I agree, it did feel that way when we were kids, like, it felt like this is just, like, a no place where nothing happens, which is weird because it's a
Yeah.
relatively major city, but it's like nothing
Yeah.
happens here, and now it's, like, on the I mean,
I know,
so
it's
many
on the front
huge
page of every single
and
publication.
again, and again, and again, it's just like, "Oh my god," again and again
Yeah.
and again.
I will say, I mean, the Twin Cities and also, like, different parts of Minnesota does have a very strong particular history of, organizing and social movements, and even
Yeah,
within our, like, boring, like, white Catholic schools, we did get a little bit of that with some of the, like, radical nunnery work,
mhm,
that was present in, like, specifically, like, in our high school,
mhm,
and, like, real commitment to like social justice in a religious, like in a way that when I try to describe to other people who haven't been in that context before, like, no, I like went to protests where like nuns would throw their blood onto or fake blood, but still. I
Yeah.
mean, that was that was also a part of our upbringing too.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Um, so Minnesotans are strange,
Mhm.
um, and can be passive aggressive and can just be aggressive too.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mhm. Totally. And people are so, that's a funny thing about Minnesota is people are fucking radical, and, like, the
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
where I mean, where Claire and I went to high school, Cretin-Derham Hall,
Mhm.
I truly think we got a pretty left-leaning education there.
I mean, by today's standards, absolutely, like, half the books that we read would be banned at this point.
Literally.
Um,
Literally. And I think I mean, a lot of the
100%.
yes, definitely. And a lot of the
Yeah.
families who sent their kids to Cretin, just like Cretin was like the Catholic school of St. Paul,
Yeah.
biggest Catholic school,
Football.
everybody went there exactly, the
Football.
football team, like
Football.
and parents didn't really question it. They just, like, sent their kids to Cretin because it was just, like, the place to go. And
Totally.
I think Cretin the teachers, like, on the ground really benefited from that because there was no oversight, like, they just did whatever the hell they want and what they wanted, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know now that Cretin has turned up more right wing, and there's
Yeah.
more definitely more parental,
Yeah.
sort of like parents'
Yeah.
rights kind of vibes there, which that exists all
Definitely.
over the country, but it's like, that's
Right.
fucking Jesus
Yeah, and
Christ,
the
I hate
student
that.
population has gone down quite a bit.
By a lot. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Just as a random aside, do you get the, like, the traditions or the
It's
communicator mag
still it's
same,
still good
same.
traditions.
When
Yeah.
they have, like, the pictures of, like, the graduating
Very
class,
sad.
Claire,
Very
there's
sad.
just, like
Yeah.
it's like
I
just a
know.
little pile of
I
kids, like, on the
know. I
grass.
know. I know.
When we were there, the Cretan was massive. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Do you wanna say a little bit about, like I know, like, like, you're obviously in touch with people who are, like,
Mhm.
there on the ground, sort of I don't know if you know people, like, on the front lines, like, what do you know? Like, I mean, I think a lot of people listening to this podcast surely are, like, interested and disturbed or curious, but don't know anyone in
Well,
Minneapolis, like
so after I graduated, I worked in an immigration law firm for 3 years. No comment on that. And then I worked as, a tenant advocate and organizer with a nonprofit. And so through both of those, experiences, I was able to get to know, like, migrants, um,
Mm,
some of whom I've stayed pretty close with, uh, to, like, I've stayed in, like, we're friends. Um, and I would say that for folks who, even if they have a status, if they are migrants, it's just a state of terror. It's like the being locked in your home at all times with small children, um, and despite the whistles being really effective way to, like, draw attention, um, to the ICE presence, it also has had this, like, terrorizing effect
mm,
on migrants themselves in kind of like a psychosomatic way because they're hearing the sound, and it's alarming.
yeah,
Um, and last week I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was on the phone, and she was, like, crying so hard because she couldn't speak, and they're like she's just like, "They won't stop whistling, they won't stop whistling." And the sort of, like, visceral experience of hearing her kind of narrate that terror, and then that weekend watching, another, like, basically live streamed, extremely violent killing,
yeah,
um, and then talking to other friends who have been involved kind of, like, off and on, people are losing it. I
yeah,
mean, it makes sense. It's like the city again, the cities are under occupation. And a lot of like, you and I have both said, like, Twin Cities folks with an X. White folks, we haven't really been through an occupation. We haven't lived under occupation.
Yeah,
Even after, like, Minneapolis, like, burned down, like, after the killing of George Floyd, like, the level of occupation just it wasn't like it is today.
right.
So, I think that people are not, well,
Yeah,
in all yeah, in people aren't okay.
yeah,
Both immigrants and allies. And I would say
1,000%.
people, immigrants, allies, and those who have chosen to not partake in any way are also not okay either.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point. I mean,
mm,
yeah, I will just second that, like, I have heard so many people from home are just, like, freaking the fuck out.
yeah,
Like, and there's
yeah,
so many, I mean, so many people who are immigrants are I've just been, I mean, it shouldn't be surprising, but I don't know, I find it somehow surprising the number of people who are scared to leave the house, or, like, every
absolutely,
yeah, or yeah.
absolutely.
Or every time they leave the house, it's like, well, this is a massive gamble, but I've gotta go.
Mhm,
It's just like,
mhm,
oh my
mhm.
god.
And then as much as a tool as, like, social media can be in terms of, like, disseminating information, I mean, like, we both know that it's, like, based on an algorithm for, like, it's an addiction, it's, like,
Yeah,
it's not good for you.
yeah,
And I think just, like, scrolling through, like, pretty intense videos and images of, like, um, state violence,
yeah,
against people in your community has a pretty intense, like, psychological impact,
yeah,
because 'cause you're addicted to watching it, and then there's, like, a paralysis of, "What do I do? What do I do?"
mhm,
Um, and there's no easy answer for that, you know?
yeah, yeah, definitely. What one thing that I'm thinking about, uh, is, like, as you're describing, like, how our childhood was, like, a boring
What's
whites
boring?
only space. It was
Mhm.
boring, it was boring. I will say, aside from a few highlights like CDH Theater that, Claire and I participated in many
Shout
shows together.
out.
That was not boring.
No, it's definitely
Evita was not boring.
mhm.
Singing in the Rain was not boring.
Tap
Um,
dancing toes, just having
that's
a
right.
great time.
Yeah. There were some good times. But that said, yeah, I mean, I don't know what narrative you grew up with, but I definitely feel I grew up with a narrative that, like, we in our community were, like,
Mhm.
very good people.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah, so I definitely felt I grew up with that narrative, and to reflect back on that and think, like,
Hmm.
if
Mhm.
the United States is, like, if the new right wing agenda was an
Mhm.
old right wing agenda that is, that is back, which is, like, the goal is for this to be a white Christian nation.
Mhm.
We've lived that reality, actually,
Yeah.
like, we grew up in that, and it was bad.
Bad. It's so interesting. That's actually really interesting because looking back, I would say that narrative that that narrative that you're describing really started to get complicated in high school
Yeah,
because
okay, yeah, so talk to us
yeah,
about that, yes.
because we had such a, like, social justice oriented, Catholic high school that was very much, like, informed by, I would say, the legacy of liberation theology looking back. There was and we had, like, Creedon had a brother who was assassinated by by US backed death squads.
Right,
Um, and so there was definitely a part of our education that was like, US empire is bad.
yeah,
And, like, we need to think critically about what we're doing in the name of, like, whatever, the church or in the name of the US or in the name of all these things. Now, most people who graduated from our high school probably don't remember that. But I was a freak and I was like, "Yeah, okay, this is super interesting. Let me dedicate my life's work to, like, investigating these questions and things." Um, so I would say, yeah, that was definitely through, like, grade school, the narrative that we kind of heard, but then I think especially because we went to high school during the Iraq War, um, and that experience was really interesting, just watching the ways in which for some people it was so completely normalized, and then for the other folks who were like, "No, this is extremely fucked. Like, this isn't okay, and we need to be, like, speaking out about it."
Mhm.
And I think that that was, like, the moment for me, of course, like, thinking about US empire and occupation, it was that, because a lot of people, I mean, vast majority of people in our community were like, "Support our troops."
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, totally. And that was right in the aftermath of September 11th. And at
Yeah.
that time, it was seen as, like, very unpatriotic to even
Mhm.
question America, to question
Never.
anything about it, to
Yeah.
question the
Yeah.
like, like, never forget was so big,
Yeah.
which on that energy is still around. I mean, like, when Zoran Mamdani won the mayoral race, like, that was a narrative even as all these years later is like, "Oh, New Yorkers have forgotten. They forgot what happened on that tragic day." It's like, "Oh my god." Like, the racism runs so deep. It's crazy.
I mean, low key, so 9/11 happened when I was in, like, 7th grade. Were you in 8th
Yeah,
grade?
8th grade. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, never, I swear to God, in my life had I didn't even know what the World Trade Center was. I didn't
Oh,
even leave
1000%.
Minnesota until I was like, I mean, yeah, I went to Wisconsin, but we're very provincial people. We don't leave.
Right.
Like,
Well,
why would
that was
you leave?
that was, like, the weird thing about my family is because everyone was
Yeah.
like, we would go to New York
Yeah.
every summer and
Yeah.
Florida to visit my
Mhm.
grandparents. But, yeah, that made my family total outliers that we would, like,
Yep.
we had family in other places. But, most Minnesotans, yeah, why would you leave? Why would you leave Minnesota?
We have it all.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, Minnesota's, a weird place and, like, but yeah, people really don't leave. Weirdly, our group of friends have basically left,
Yeah,
um, but I have a younger sister, none of her friends have left. I mean, people stay,
they do.
and they stay friends with the friends that they had when they were in kindergarten through high school.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is, like, kind of magical that, like, you and I are still friends
Yeah.
and still in touch to
Yeah.
this day, and it's also kind of crazy, you know what yeah, I
Yeah.
totally feel you. Let's say more about, like, as we're thinking about, like, the narrative piece, like, are
Mhm.
you good? Or, like, do you come from a
Mhm.
community of good people? And questioning that because
Mhm.
I mean, this conversation is, like, very tangential
Mhm.
to the chronic pain thing,
Mhm. Yeah.
but that element is actually it really fits into this narrative of, like, questioning who you are, questioning where you come from, questioning, like, are basically, like, are the things that you do, like, are you aligned? Are you aligned with, like, your
Mm.
actual values and your actual actions?
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
I just wonder if you have anything more to say about, like, I don't know, that narrative and how that has impacted your life.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about Minnesotans is that we're super modest.
Totally. That's a problem I
And
have. I hate that.
nobody would ever, I don't know, speaking from my own experience, we don't come out and say we're good at this or we're good. It's like we're not prideful people in that sense. Like
True.
modesty is a really like ingrained value, at least in my, like, experience growing
Same,
up
same.
in Minnesota, and, I mean, people are kinda quiet about if they are doing good things or bad things.
Mhm,
Um, I will say that, like, so Minnesota has the largest Somali population outside of Somalia,
mhm,
and also a very large Hmong population,
mhm.
other migrant communities, and, like that didn't just happen. That happened because, like, Minnesotans were committed to refugee resettlement.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that's, like, something I'm proud of.
Mhm.
And it didn't just happen overnight, but it was a very quiet thing, it's, like,
Mhm.
because of Lutheran social services, that all these people were able to be, like, resettled.
Mhm.
Um, so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like any place in the world, I think it has a lot of, like, contradictions and, um, that there is, like, a reckoning with, like, Minnesota nice happening right now,
Mhm.
and yeah, it's really interesting for me to think about too the ways in which, like, my entire extended family is in Minnesota, and I have people on all different parts of the political spectrum. And I really wonder what some of them are thinking right now who,
Mhm.
like, are at the total opposite spectrum.
Totally.
Um
Yeah, yeah, well, I wonder, like, because I haven't really heard from, like, any, like, conservative people, their take on this, like, have you
Mhm.
heard from, like, y right-wing family members, like, anything?
No, and
Same. Yeah.
I am as, like, as a social scientist, I'm curious, like, literally just to know what's happening, like, in their brain. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
How does this
totally. Well,
feel?
right, right. Because that's something that really, really fucking kills me is I'm like, "We just voted for this." Like, we just had a whole
Mhm,
election where we literally just voted for this, and now
mhm,
people are getting what they,
mhm.
quote, unquote, "want," and it's like, "Well, this is
Totally,
what it looks like."
totally. Mhm.
Ugh, it bothers me so deeply that, like I mean,
Yeah.
I just feel really like, there have been so many places where I feel like I've put like my energies towards activism like oh yeah like don't vote for Donald Trump or
Mhm,
and I mean the number of things it's like we've come so far like we've just like gone so deep into like bullshit and racism and fascism and the wrong direction that at
mhm.
this point I feel a little bit like I don't even know what to say anymore like it's so
Yeah.
crazy and some people are still
Mhm,
like they still support I mean, it's like the New York Times after I forget at what point this happened, but this was maybe a couple, I don't know, a couple days ago or a week or so ago. They came out with
yeah.
it's like, how many people support what Donald Trump is doing with immigration? It's like, of Democrats, not many, but some. Of
Mhm.
Republicans, a lot.
Yeah,
It's like well over
yeah,
50%. And it's like,
yeah.
so people really want this. They really want this.
They do, including people in Minnesota. Like, I saw an
Yeah,
interview with a woman in Greater Minnesota was, like, responding to the death of, Renée Good, and she was like, "Well, I mean, what did she expect?" Like, the yeah,
right.
yeah. It's hard to find the words, right now, but I guess we have to, so
I do think, like, I mean, I feel like the analysis that I've heard around the killing of Renee Good was a more victim blamey. It was more like she was a
Mm,
she was
yeah,
obviously a domestic terrorist using the car to try
right,
to assault the
right.
guy. She was going to kill him, which is like so clearly not true. And yet people really I think did believe that narrative more. The analysis around Alex Pretty's killing I think has been different. It does seem a little more like
Totally different. Yeah.
like, the right wing, I feel like, kinda feels like, "Oh, shit, we
Mhm.
just killed one of our own." Like, this is, like, a
Yeah,
white guy with a gun, like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. Absolutely.
Yeah,
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 people are flailing right now. Yeah.
totally flailing, totally flailing.
Yeah, it's tough, it's maddening. I mean, the thing that I just keep trying to think about, like, if we can do anything as, like, white allies who don't live in Minnesota, but who are Minnesotan in a way, is, like,
Yeah,
just trying to, like, not go crazy. Like, we can't because we're not the ones who are being the most, like, directly impacted, and I think we owe it to, like, as a form of, I don't know, just resistance is like we cannot lose our shit. Like we have
Yeah.
to just yeah, stay grounded in some way.
I think that's so true. To make this, like, as if suddenly, like, I'm the victim or you're the
Yeah.
victim and my life is spinning out
Yeah.
of control and I have so much anxiety about this, like, okay, whatever you're feeling, great,
Yeah.
but if your
Totally.
narrative is I'm the victim and you're a white
Yeah.
person who's, like, not on the front lines,
Yeah.
like, you're not the victim, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
like, you're just not. Um,
It's yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of, actually recently conversations with both friends and even clients about, like, the that it can be a kind of resistance to, like, um, live a good life while all of this is
Yeah.
happening, and I
Mhm.
think, like, that is sort of dangerous because it's easy to be like, "This is not my problem, I'm not gonna worry
Right.
about it, I'm gonna live my life," and that I think is problematic, but, you know, I think there's really something to be said for, like, I like, in any movement, there needs to be people who are kind of convincing the masses to come along with the movement, but there
Totally.
also needs to be people who are, like, living the movement, like, living well, like,
Mhm.
living outside of the white supremacist bubble as best as they can, for example,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I just wonder, like, what do you think about that?
No, I 110% agree. I think that there's a difference between being like, "I'm not gonna pay attention to the news at all. I can't do it. I can't engage. It's too
Right.
stressful." Right? And being like, "I'm cognizant of what's happening, and I'm still going to choose to live my life." Like, my baby's turning 1 tomorrow. I'm still gonna celebrate it. It's been a fucked up year, but, like, we still have stuff to celebrate, and I think that, like,
Yeah.
as white Americans, this is, like, the first time that we're experiencing a teeny tiny little baby little fraction of, like, the terror, that the US has, like, sponsored on a global scale,
Yeah.
if not, like, perpetrated. I mean, we killed, like, 3 million people in Iraq over the course of the war, so right? Like, we're experiencing, I think, a tiny little drop of what it feels to live life under occupation or to watch family members, like, work through that,
Mhm.
and I think we owe it to ourselves to, like, still live our life. Like, don't let the Trump administration win. Like, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Like,
Okay, Claire,
no.
thank you.
I
2
don't
thi
Stephen
Go ahead.
Miller does not control my joy. Like,
Yes. Stephen Miller does not control your joy, period. Okay, 2 things.
period.
First, thank you for, like, making that point. Like, it's I think that's so helpful to think about, like, the United States as an imperial empire is really dangerous and really scary and does
Mhm.
literally kills people all over the world all the time, and
Yeah.
we are now feeling that, we
Yeah.
are outside of the bubble, and when you're
Yeah.
inside the bubble, it feels real safe, and
Mhm.
and and you're also wrong, that is why I think this is so clearly related to chronic pain and why it, like, feels so natural to
Mhm.
have this conversation on this podcast is because, like, when
Absolutely.
you're in a bubble, like, you don't know what's really going on, and if there are
Yeah.
signs like, "Oh, I think I live a good, like, life," or
Mhm.
like, I don't know anyone who's a person of color, or, like, people of color seem
Yeah.
really unhappy or dissatisfied
Mhm.
with, like, the
Mhm.
political structure, but I think it's fine. It's like there are things that are clearly signs that
Mhm.
it's not right. Or like,
Mhm.
why is my country that's supposed to be like such a great place? Why are we
Right.
always at war constantly throughout like our entire
Honestly.
lives? Like why? Why is that
Nonstop.
always happening?
Yeah.
And I just think it's so important for people listening to take that in. I mean, I think it's important for people for people to take that in. Like,
Yeah.
question the narratives you have, because if there are
Mhm.
signs that, like, it's not right, then it's not right. First thing. Second thing,
Yeah. Right.
yeah, Stephen Miller does not control your joy, nor does Donald Trump. Like, we
Period.
yeah.
No, it just
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I mean, the listen, it sucks. Like everything is
Right.
it's bad. And like
Right.
it makes sense to have some big feelings about how bad it is, but
Right.
yeah. I don't
right.
know.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, it's funny. I was, actually texting with one of our friends who I will not name just 'cause,
Love that.
publicity.
Yes.
I was texting with one of our mutual friends. It was
Yeah.
her birthday. Like, it was, I think, the day after Alex Pretti was killed, and I was like, "Oh my god, like,
Um,
how are you? Like, happy
yeah.
birthday. Everything's so
Yeah.
crazy in Minneapolis. Hope everything's okay." And she
Yeah.
literally, her response, she was like, "Oh my god, I know it's so bad. Thanks for the birthday wishes. I'm actually in Puerto Rico right now because this trip has been planned for months and like having the best
Good.
time." But yeah, and I was like,
Yeah.
hell yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah.
yeah. To me, it's like it's just like, to see what's going on the ground, or to have like a sort of a front
Yeah.
row seat to what's going on the ground, like knowing people, so
Mhm.
many people are too scared to leave the house. And then other people are
Yeah.
like, they care, and they're in Puerto Rico on vacation.
And
Like
they're
they're
visiting a US colony,
well, they're
Take a take a minute to learn some lessons from Puerto Ricans about what it's like to live under occupation. I
there we go.
mean,
Get outside of
yeah.
the bubble while you are still inside the
Yeah,
bubble.
like, there's space for both. I don't know, I also feel like too in coming from the, like, Catholic, white, like, very guilt,
Yeah,
oriented background that we came from is, like, we should just be suffering, and it's like, so actually that's, like, a really kind of selfish response, like,
agreed, agreed.
if you can take a minute to have a birthday party or something, just do it,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
If other people are suffering and you start suffering too because they are suffering, but it's not like you're in
Right.
solidarity, it's more like, "It's about me now, and it's hard for
Mhm.
me." It's like, are you making
Mhm.
anything better?
Mhm. Yeah. So just check in with yourself, you know?
1,000%. Okay, Claire,
Yeah.
as we're winding down,
Yeah.
any other thoughts? I mean, one thing I'm thinking is, like, if anything about, like, what you sort of, like, what you as someone who, like, is watching this unfold, what you hope for the future, but also if there's anything else that you would just wanna say as we're winding down.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I would say if you're feeling hopeless, just look at instances of like people who resisted state violence and occupation outside of the United States because we do have folks we can learn from and listen to. This has precedence. It's just for the first time, I think, as I've said, we're experiencing it here at home ourselves as white people.
Mhm. We're
But
not used to being aggressed upon, we're used to being the aggressor, but
right,
not even knowing that
right,
we're the aggressor. We're the aggressor, but we're told, like,
right.
"Everything's good." But yeah, yeah. Go on.
Yeah, but, like, lots of, folks in the US, migrants, Black people, like, refugees, etcetera, have been dealing with this for Indigenous people for
Oh, since
hundreds
the
of
beginning of
years.
the United States of America, yep.
Yeah, so there is a precedence, right? This didn't just come out of, nowhere,
Mhm.
and it might be, like, a cool time to just learn some stuff about people who have experienced this prior and what did they do, and, let's be creative. And also, like, just keep talking to people and just get offline, I think
Yeah,
is another good way to just, um, take a beat. And my hope, I mean, selfishly, I just want it to end now. Like, I'm like,
sure.
gonna just
Yeah.
um, but I think that, like, I think this is just the beginning.
Mhm.
And even though that can feel really overwhelming to say, it's also like, okay, it's a marathon. It's like
Mhm.
you have to kind of take care of yourself a little bit because I do think it's gonna be we're gonna have time to yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're totally right. I think,
Yeah.
I think in terms of hopes for the future, I'm like, I hope white Americans learn how to get along with immigrants of color. Like,
Yeah.
imagine that, you know what I mean? Just,
I
like, how
know.
many of like, how much of this would just relax so much if people if
Yeah.
white people were like, "Okay, cool. Let's
Yeah.
go," you know?
Unfortunately, though, it's like, okay, Sean, like, thinking about our background in Minnesota, like, did we have any friends who are migrants? Did we
Right,
have any No, it's
right.
like for so many people in our, like, community growing up or, um, migrants were just, like, domestic worker or, like, people with low-wage jobs,
Totally.
that did the
Restaurant,
job.
busboy,
Yeah,
yeah, taxi
um,
driver. Totally.
yeah,
Totally. Totally.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
The lack of exposure is
yeah,
so serious. You know, it's
yeah,
funny. I actually like a few of my some of my friends of color now in New York are kind of shocked by like how do like I'm thinking of one person specific who has asked me like, "How do so many of your white friends only have other white friends?"
100%,
You know, and in this very
100%.
like, "How dare they? What's wrong with they?" When what's wrong with them? And like, I get that. Like, yeah, I get the anger and kind of like how like what's wrong with them. I get that energy, but I'm also like, as a white person who grew up in America, I'm like how do I have any friends who are not white? Like, you know
Mhm,
what I mean? It's like
mhm,
most of us and I know there are statistics around this, like, we are certainly not the only people who grew up in racial segregation. Most white people will not admit that they grew up in segregation, but they
right,
did, and
right.
there's actual statistics around I don't know the numbers, but it's like
Especially if they live in the upper Midwest, like,
mm,
I've heard the last thing that I'll say is that nobody should be blaming this violence on individuals from the Southern United States,
yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Um, whatever the fuck his name was, Jonathan Ross, who killed Renee, was from Minnesota. Derek
yeah,
Chauvin was
from
from
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Yeah,
George Floyd was from Houston,
yeah,
and Renee was from Colorado.
yeah,
So do not blame this violence on people who are from, like, your imagined villainized Southern USA because, yeah, no, that's not okay,
yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah, preach. Preach. Yeah, and what I hear there is also, like, don't blame it on someone who's not like you. Like, don't think,
right.
like, like, "Oh, someone else would have done this." It's like,
Stop
question
thinking
yourself
yeah.
and your own
I think
community.
that too, Sean, gets back to sort of this myth of like we're good people.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. That mentality of like, oh, we're from a blue state. We're from the north, and so somehow we're like morally superior to like
yeah.
people who live outside of our imagined moral high ground community.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a good thing, I'm thinking for myself as well, that I like to think like, "Oh my god, this is so bad." Like, I obviously didn't vote for Trump. I would never support any of this, but it's like I grew up in this country, which is super hateful. I have a lot of that
Mhm.
conditioned in my brain, and I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure I absolutely still need to relearn, unlearn,
Yeah.
soften around, like all of us have room for growth. And
We
that doesn't
do.
just people, the number of people of color who support Trump and
Mhm.
hate
Mhm.
other
Mhm.
immigrants, it's like a lot of us have a lot of softening to do.
We do, and I think also redirecting that energy to, like, the systems and the corporate
Mm.
entities in place that has you know
Preach,
what I mean?
Claire. I
Yeah,
preach. Yeah.
'cause, I mean, sure, we make a lot of mistakes and people are stupid and mean, but, like, at the end of the day, there's, like, 5 men making all the decisions and companies
Yeah.
and things like
Yeah. Yes.
that,
Preach.
so
Preach. All right. Okay. So as we're winding down, let me just say this. My message to people listening to the podcast is
love,
to piggyback yeah. Exactly.
love.
Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back to the podcast and bring it back to the theme of chronic pain always. Um, what Claire and I are, like, talking about now with, like, trying to be aware of the full story and doing your best to be aware of the full story. Like, if you think something seems good or,
Mhm.
for example, like a childhood in St. Paul, Minnesota, if it seems good, my invitation to you listening, if there are signs that your narrative is wrong, examine the narrative more deeply. Like, in your body, I mean, as people
Yeah,
listen to this,
yeah.
yeah, like, if your narrative is wrong, in your body, you may be experiencing symptoms like chronic pain, especially if it's your own personal trauma. But in life, like you may experience signs that your narrative is wrong, as like other people don't agree with your narrative, people with less privileged identities don't agree with your narrative. um Take that seriously. Like you
Yeah.
may, like your experience is not the only experience. And
Mhm.
awareness, awareness, awareness. Because suddenly when you wake up and you're like, wow, my cute little hometown is under like
Mhm.
federal
Military
occupation.
occupation.
Right? It's like, well, here we are. Here we
Yeah. Yep.
Claire, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This is so
Thank you so much
fun.
for having
Oh
me.
my god, you're so welcome. And anything else you want to say in conclusion? Like, I mean, also people are always welcome if people want to learn more about you, or can they like
Yeah.
find you like
They
where?
can definitely, um, they can find more out about me. Take a class with me at Rice University.
Yeah, right. If anyone listening is a prospective Rice student,
Anybody's a prospective student interested in Rice, hit me
you
up.
have a website, right?
I do have a website. You
drclairebranigan.com.
can
What is it?
read I think it's Claire TSB or yeah, Claire TSB dot PhD.
Obsessed. Get
Yeah.
yeah, get that degree in there.
Yeah, 'cause .com felt very, like, corporate to me, so
Yeah,
PhD was, like, a fun little
love it. Yeah,
twist.
I love it.
Take
All
a
right,
class
Claire.
with me and yeah, just I don't know, we can only get through together, so keep talking to your friends.
That's right. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. And it's so fun to have like, a
Oh
real
my
like
gosh.
close friend actually come on the podcast. And one thing I want to add for everybody listening, in the show notes there is a link tree. And this, if you're somebody who wants to do something, wants to support people like on the ground in Minneapolis, like you would like to give money, great. This the link tree that is linked in the show notes has a bunch of organizations and even direct like individuals who need money and need financial support. So if you're someone who would like to do something like that, by all means, you can check that out in the show notes. That the link tree is there with a bunch of different people's information. And for everyone listening, this has been Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain, and I will see you soon.